All right, I'm starting over the audio. No. It's just like I hate. Not that I hate Ruby. I enjoy it at times. I'm just mad that like I'm only so invested to see who dies next.
Oh,
You know what I mean? That sounds
yeah.
terrible. I want to know what happens to my favorites. Um, as long as they don't die, I really don't care what happens. Like
Yeah.
they can be maimed, just not don't kill my favorites.
Yeah. I'm just happy like some of these are just kind of like, some of the shows like Supernatural, like I'm kind of sad it ended, but it kind of had to end. They've been doing this a long ass time, so I understand. But like, if and when people eventually forget about Supernatural, I'm an idiot who got the fucking tattoo.
Yeah, what's that gonna be like?
I don't know.
Speaking of, hold on. So I was watching Animaniacs last night.
I love that show.
I was gonna say, anybody remember that show? Well, they rebooted it, and it's actually like I wasn't certain at first because sometimes the reboot sucks.
Yeah.
I loved every second of this reboot. It just visually, it's so nice. It was so well done. It still felt like an episode of Animaniacs, but like not. So I
Well,
had to share that. It's really good. If y'all haven't
that was
watched
kind
it
of
yet.
that was kind of me with like I tried to watch the new Powerpuff Girls and I was really disappointed and I was just like it's the same thing with Teen Titans. Like I was just like this isn't what I'm used to, but like it's
Well,
Cartoon
it
Network's kind of
shouldn't.
disappointed me.
Yeah, it shouldn't try to be. You know what I mean? It shouldn't try to
Yeah.
be what it used to be. And I think that's what I really appreciated about the Animaniacs reboot is that it addressed that.
What really bothers me is Cartoon Network. Literally, all the art styles are the same.
Well, yeah, and
Like
again,
for
that's what I
reason.
appreciated about Animaniacs is that it brands itself as the Animaniacs reboot, not
Yeah.
the, same with like Ben 10 like really killed it when it came to the Ultimate Alien and Alien Force. I guess that's a reboot or like the Jump Forward or whatever the hell you want to call that because it was its own thing. They weren't branding it as a hey, we're bringing this back. It was the reboot.
Yeah.
This new version of it is okay for what it is, but it's not any like comeback series.
Yeah. I was just so like frustrated when they started bringing back stuff from like our childhood and just like straight up like when you bring something back like that, you kind of hope it's like what you grew up with, but then in the end, it smacks you in the face.
Well, it's never going to be because, like we've established earlier, we're adults now. Things are different. And I think what I liked about Animaniacs is that it was so out there when we were kids that watching it again as an adult or watching the reboot as an adult, it still had that kind of out there zany. It had that zany
Yeah.
nature um, without, you know what I mean? It was very easy to replicate. But some of these shows with like, Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, there's a lot of like new wave shit that's just not working. I just fucked up this candy cane.
I do think it's funny though. Like we started out like let's talk about how it's crazy that we're adults, and then we're here talking about Animaniacs.
No, but think about it. That kind of covered the adult. It's weird we're adults now because, all of our old
Yeah.
shows from our childhood are getting. I wish they would reboot Static Shock. I cannot stress that enough. I
Yes.
cannot stress that enough. I will not stress that enough. They have to reboot Static Shock.
Well, like what's kind of cool is I kind of like being like the quote unquote adult, but like when it comes down to it, I'm kind of like enjoying. I think I'm in this limbo because like as like y'all have jobs and shit, I got stuck literally doing jack shit the rest of my life. So I literally just feel like I have a second chance to be a kid again,
Dang.
which is kind of cool.
Wow, hold on. I gotta process all that.
Honestly, I go back and forth on the idea of like reboots and like reliving my childhood.
Well, that's what it is reliving.
What?
So that's all it is reliving, and there'll come a point where, like, it smacks you in the face that, like, hey, once this episode is over, you know what I mean? You've got to go pay bills, you got to go to your work, you can't. There was a day I spooked myself because of the Halloween episode of, shit, what the hell? It was Ben 10, and I can't remember what episode it was, but it had like a zombie version of Ben, and it was just super disturbing. And I was at work, and I'm trying to explain to my coworker why I just bolted from the back room. But like, I feel like an idiot explaining this to her because we're grown adults, and why am I watching a cartoon?
Right.
You know?
I totally get that. I got into Steven Universe.
Oh, yeah?
And I have to say, first of all, I love the show. Second of all, I was like, oh wow, like this is a really lighthearted kid show. And then towards like the last couple seasons, it was like super deep and like super like, I'm like, this is kind of adult in its own way. And I was like,
Y'all, let me tell you, this is terrible, but also really good. So for like, obviously my stepdad passed away. We all kind of knew about that.
yeah.
At the time, I was watching Infinity Train and Wizards Tales of Arcadia, which are very like, they talk a lot about like mourning and death and life changing and things like that. And it was actually super therapeutic to watch cartoons and watch like a cartoon character get like go through the stages of grief or like go through that weird, you know what I mean? And like help me process things. And I was like, it was weird. It was very weird. I don't know how else to
Honestly,
describe it.
Some like modern kid shows like Infinity Train, like Tales of Arcadia, Steven Universe, like they are very like it is adult in some sense that it's like addressing these topics, but also in a way that's like for kids to understand.
No, and it's like I remember the like watching the scene with like I guess with like Tales of Arcadia, but with Dukesy processing Merlin's death. Spoiler alert, but him processing Merlin's death, and it was like he's yelling at Charlie that he just needs a minute, like give him a minute, leave him alone. And I was like, that is me right now. Oh my god, like I've never related to a cartoon so much before.
Oh yeah.
It was so I don't even know how to describe it because it was so helpful, but then it's not like you can like go back to work or like I'm trying to explain the show to my mom and she's like, "Oh, what show is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a cartoon." And then of course like then she doesn't want to hear about it. But we understand it as adults. I think that's super fascinating that, you know, I think it's just fascinating that we can interpret a show in such a way with this perspective. Um, you know, this adult perspective.
Yeah.
I say this as I'm like
It really is.
painting paper plates, drinking wine, talking about like, oh my god, the wisdom.
I love how they integrate like those topics with kids shows because like it also sometimes helps adults too. Like, you know, I personally I hate watching the news. I hate, you know, I really just don't want like the bullshit all the time, you know?
Well, I always wondered like at what point as an adult was I gonna start watching live action shows? Like when was I gonna start hating cartoons? And that's never happened.
Right.
My
Well,
dream career is still voice actress.
like honestly, I don't think I've ever hit that point either. Like I like my good combination of like watching live action shows as opposed to like cartoons or anime and like I'm just like, oh, at some point I'm going to outgrow this. And I'm not. And I honestly don't think that there's a problem with never, like, outgrowing it to an
I don't think there is either. Like, I mean, I'm kind of like you, Ver. Like, I have a healthy balance of the two, but, like, I'm not gonna willingly go watch the fucking news. Like,
What is everybody drinking tonight that this is our topic of conversation? I'm sorry, I'm like...
I am drinking Jim Beam and Coke. Well, vanilla Jim Beam and Coke.
Nice. I am drinking Cabernet. You know what's kind of weird is like, where are we at in adult life that, you know, this was at one time Daydrinks and Daydreams, and now we're drinking wine at like a sensible hour.
That's very true.
I'm talking about like our cartoon reboots.
We are at normal drinking time, which just about never happens.
This is a fluke, though.
it is kind of a fluke.
That's just because I was working today.
I also did essentially take like a 3-hour nap that I went, oh boy. It wasn't like one of those naps that you wake up and you just feel
Refreshed.
even tired. No. I wasn't refreshed, but I wasn't more tired. I didn't feel gross. I just felt the same.
Ew.